Welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight. I'm your host, Josie Way. Co-hosting with me tonight is Bill Hannon, and some of you will recognize our guest. He was here before. This is John Moniz. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
You're multi-talented, so we can pick your brain for all sorts of things. I noticed you're wearing a shirt from the Massachusetts research group.
Right. Paranormal?
It's a paranormal group.
We are a paranormal group based out of Taunton, Massachusetts. We're a small group. We go in and investigate mostly the Taunton, that area, Bridgewater and Boston. We do pretty much like the Cape and that kind of stuff. So, and there, because of all the history, we're also we're mostly a research team. Because we like to have all the facts. We want to know why these events are happening. Why is this particular house so haunted and the house next door has nothing? So we go back through the history, the people who've lived in the houses, and really research all the details. When the house was built, who built it, and for what reason was the house built? Was it part of the complex for all the mills in the area? And to get all those little details, so that it kind of starts painting a much larger picture of what's going on in the area. And like Taunton is actually a very unique area because of the Taunton State Hospital. And Taunton State Hospital has a deep, rich history. Now we're still trying to obtain rights to go in there, but right now it's pretty well closed off. Most of the buildings have been torn down, but there's still a lot of activity there.
What kind of hospital was it?
It was a mental hospital.
That's what I thought.
It was a mental hospital, and they did some rather unsavory things with some of the people who lived there.
Experiments?
And the children. There were experiments and there were a lot of experiments done with children at the time, the orphans and the ones who were mentally handicapped. There were a lot of very, very evil things done. Because back in the old days, nobody wanted to deal with the handicap, so the families would just hand them off to the hospital and say, here, and they would wash their hands of it. And the hospital's like, well, here's a person that we can do whatever we want to because nobody really cares. So the doctors would experiment and everything on them. And there are graves on the ground of unmarked graves of the children that were experimented on, and that's really what has raised a lot of problems in that area, is because of those are some very unrested souls. So we've been doing a lot with that stuff, and we're doing some of the older towns like Plymouth and the neighboring towns, Carver and whatnot, because there's a lot of real old history that goes back to the 1400s when the Pilgrims came over, because the Pilgrims were not quite the nicest, as like history would like us to believe, that they truly were. They stole the land any way they could possibly get it from the natives. And they murdered and butchered people because it was about obtaining what they wanted. So there's a lot of
So it's unrested souls
in that department too. So, and then when you look at the geography of the area, we're also talking about there are vast quantities of quartz and magnetite, and water flows underneath all of this area, that have created such vast places for these souls to magnify their intentions and everything. So it really makes it that there is a lot more activity because they have absolutely everything that a soul would possibly need to keep going on. And I think I've said this many times before, is the unfortunate part is many of these souls have no idea that they're dead.
Right.
Yeah.
They're just trying to, they see a person and they're trying to interact with them.
Right.
Because they want to be known that they're there. And some people are receptive to them, like myself and one of my other team members. We are the two psychics on the team, and so we get our as much information as we can when we're out on an investigation, from those entities, and we try to put that information together with the research that we're doing about the properties. And a lot of times we find our little niches where who these people were, what they were involved in, and what they were doing, and why their souls are still in unrest. So the team we're really a great little team. We're not one of those teams. We don't go into an investigation. We do not charge. We're there to help the people out of because usually by the time they call us, they're at their wits' end.
Yeah.
Because they've got black shadows standing at the base of their beds.
Right.
Or they've got books flying off shelves, or
Sure.
they've got things happening within the house that are unnerving them. So by that point, we get called in to try and come in to see what we can do to figure out why these entities are there and why they're so upset and they're doing this stuff. And we've got a pretty good rate at helping people out. But the one thing I have to say is, it's really, really funny. There are those people who will call you in to have you help them, but they really have no intention of really doing anything to help themselves. You can go through it with them and say, look, this is what's happening, this is why it's happening, these are the messages we're getting, and these are the things you need to do to protect yourself. And they're like, no. We had one investigation where the woman came to us and told us that her granddaughter was being bothered by the spirit at night. And we were like, okay. Well, the minute we get to the place, we come to find out that the woman is playing with a Ouija board.
Oh.
My favorite toy in the world.
Oh yeah. Opening the portal.
And she was practicing. She was playing with this thing way too. Plus, she claimed that she was a witch, so she was doing her witchly things, and she was literally putting her granddaughter's life on the line with these spirits, because she had opened up this portal for them to come through, and the granddaughter was basically the prize at the end of the tunnel for them. And we looked at the woman and we said, we can't help you if you're not willing to work with us here. You have to, number one, you have to get that thing out of this house, and you have to stop this kind of stuff.
Right.
And
The only way you can really dispose of something like that is, you can't just get rid of it. You actually have to burn it.
You have to burn it.
Ceremony, right? Exactly.
And we told her first thing you have to do is you have to close this board. You have to close it. You have to close it right, and
Yes.
you have to do it now, because right now this is a wide open portal, and until you close the circle,
Right.
these things are going to continue to come through. And she was like, but I don't want to. I like them. Then why did you call us?
Right.
You know, if you're not going to do this to help your granddaughter,
Sure.
you know,
No,
then why did you bring us in here? And it was, there was drug use in the house. There was a lot of stuff going on that was not helping them.
Unhealthy vibrations.
Yeah.
Right. And so
It
was
attracted some unhealthy spirits.
Oh, it did. It did.
Right.
There was some real nasty ones that were there.
And so was there any physical issues with the granddaughter?
It hadn't gotten to that point as of yet, and I did what I could by leaving crystals up underneath the bed.
Yeah.
You know, for her, some grounding crystals, some protection crystals. And I before I left the house, I did a crystal grid outside on all four corners of the house.
Sure.
And everything to try and block as much of what I could as I could, you know, but the woman just didn't want to hear it. And it's sad.
Yeah, that's very selfish on her part.
It was, and that's one of the stories that, you know, like when we get a new member coming onto the team, these are the things we like to tell them, you know, because you're going to have those people who are going to be like that.
Yeah.
You know, because they see ghost hunters and they see all these television shows and they think that this is all a big joke, and it's not. You have no idea. When you mess with a Ouija board, you have no idea what you're messing with.
Yeah.
Because there are so many things there are so many dark things just on the other side. They'll tell you anything you want to hear, just so that you will invite them in. Once they're invited in, they are very, very hard to get rid of. And we have two demonologists that we can call, one for the real bad problems, and we called him, but the woman wouldn't even let her near the house. Which we were, even Herbie looked at us and said, if I can't get in the house, I can't do nothing. And we were like, we know. It got to the point she wouldn't talk to us anymore either. So we said our goodbyes, and we pray pray for the granddaughter on a regular basis to hope and pray that she stays fine through all of this and everything. Yeah. But we've heard from others that it's getting worse over there. So I feel bad for the granddaughter and everything because of the grandmother, but. There comes a point where you have to know when to walk away from a situation like that. And as much as
you don't have her permission anymore.
Yeah, when you don't have the permission, there's nothing you can do.
There's no laws that say you have to commit to, you know.
Even though she is endangering the child, I mean, who you call DHS and say, she's using demons for. Yeah, right. Okay, goodbye. We'll talk to you later.
We've got enough with real people doing things. We have no staff for demons.
Right. So most of the time, it's just a spirit that's left in the house. Or it'll come with a piece of furniture or an object. I mean, the worst are the dolls. Oh. I try to tell everybody, you see that creepy doll in the corner over there? Do me a favor, put it in a box and put it away somewhere. And they're like, why? Because there's a spirit attached to that, and you don't want to be involved with that.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh yeah, I mean, we had it on film for this one house where this woman had a room full of these dolls.
Oh God, a room full.
She had a room full of them, And we went in there, and the minute I walked in there, I mean, I had this cold chill run right down my spine. And I looked around, and you could see the eyes just staring at you, and I was like, oh, no, I'm out of this room. Creepy doll room, no. And we put a camera up in there, and we focused in on 3 dolls. They were the oldest of the dolls in the room, and they were from like the early 1800s, and they were all the China head dolls. And we have one where the eyes are blinking. We have another one where you can see the head move. And then the third one, you could see the hand move from one side of the lap to the other side of the lap. And it's like, yeah. Take everything in that room, put it in a big pile, and burn them all.
Yeah. Meanwhile, she's collecting them.
Oh, and she had in that room, she had literally like 100. And she had the room all perfectly set up with little shelves and velvet draping, so that, and little velvet pillows.
Well, you wonder if there's any situations where some of these people may have had past life experiences with these dolls or these types of dolls, and that's why they slip into this so easily here.
Yeah. Well, and it is funny because she talked to each one of these dolls like she was old friends with them. And although we never got into the past life thing with her, she made it very, very clear that these were her good friends.
Yeah, they're all personified.
And she had been with them for a long time.
Right.
So we were like, okay.
Yeah.
Now, you've also mentioned that, since we seen you last a while ago, that, you've had a few interesting situations, in your meditations or experiences since we saw you.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to touch on that, or?
Oh, sure. For the team, we were doing a meditational exercise to help us. Now, I do remote viewing.
Right.
I've been remote viewing now for well over 10 years.
Yeah.
And I really love it. So in this particular meditation, it was just focus in. It was supposed to be a focus inward, but I like to go outward because the inward stuff, that's boring now. So I have been checking out different coordinates from NASA, because on the NASA website you can find different coordinates.
Sure.
So I will take that coordinate and I will write it down on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope, and I will sit down and I will remote view that. Well, a couple of them that the coordinates that I got were for the dark side, the back side of the moon.
Oh yeah.
I was looking around, and in this one spot, I seemed to notice that it looked like a building, but it was very crude and more built into the rock and everything else. And I said, okay, I'm going to go check this out. And I went inside, and when I did, I realized that somebody was staring back at me. And
So that was a conscious connection. You actually consciously made contact with somebody who consciously was actually seeing you.
Right.
Oh.
And it was very, very unique because we had an exchange of thought.
That's right.
And it was like, who are you? I'm like, and who are you?
Yeah.
And why are you on the moon?
So I not to interrupt you, I just find it so interesting because I've spoken to other people about this, and other people who have seen buildings that don't stand out as buildings, but they're actually like made to fit into the landscape. Even buildings where there would be conveyor belts and there'd be rocks coming off the end of the conveyor belts like they were inside mining.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there supposedly are other entities or other beings from other planets. And so I'm curious from what you just shared with me. I never even thought of asking somebody this, but did you get the awareness or intent that this could have been another being from another planet?
Oh, it was definitely, they were not from...
They were not Homo sapiens?
They weren't Homo sapien,
Right.
no.
Okay.
The one that I was interacting with he was very much like us. Skin was a bit paler. They were a bit taller. I want to say the one I was dealing with was probably about 6'9", maybe a little taller than that. And very, very soft the way they spoke. It was it was not like they were trying to shout. It was very soft and calming. I felt very, very relaxed when I was talking with them, and it was a short exchange because they wanted to know how I had found them, and well, I took some coordinates that I had found and I meditated on them, and
Here I am.
this is where I am. And he was thrilled that somebody from here actually had the ability to see that, to be able, the very few, there aren't enough of us that are viewing this kind of stuff.
Right.
And I mean, he was very, very happy, and he told me to basically, if I wanted to come back, next time I came back, he would show me around more. And
Right.
so although I have not been able to make that connection again as of recently, but it is one that I have been actively pursuing,
Right.
because I would like to know more.
I myself, I took silver mind control back in 1980, and that was one of the exercises I did on the dark side of the moon. And I knew there was activity, but nothing near as precise. Or these persons that you described almost sound like the persons that were described by Admiral Byrd when he visited the North Pole and he came across Middle Earth.
Yeah,
And here's an admiral of the United States service
yeah.
documenting what he saw, and he said that the people were large people, paler, they were like us, they almost looked like Scandinavian descent type of thing, about 6'9", he said much taller than I.
Yeah.
So, I just find it so interesting, all these connections that are being made here as you're bringing this up.
Yes,
Possible connections.
And again, now I'm trying to shoot to see more about Mars, because there is a definite connection between the two.
Between Mars and Moon.
Mars and the Moon, yes.
Right.
There is a definite connection that I was made aware of when I was speaking with him, that there was a connection between the Mars and the Moon, and they did not absolutely make it clear, but it was one of those that the more we look into it, we're going to find that there is a connection, that there were people from Mars who came to Earth when the Martian atmosphere was literally blown out, because there was, from what I was able to comprehend from what he was showing me, is there was a war. And it literally it destroyed the atmosphere of Mars.
That's right.
And
That's what I heard. Yeah.
for those the ones who actually survived the war, they got into rockets and whatnot, and they took off and they came here. Some of them came here, and some of them went in another direction. But the ones that came here are the ones that, how do I say it? They're like us. They're just, they pass for human, but when you do your genealogy on them or do the DNA testing, they are nothing like us. And those are the ones in Spain. I can't think of their names right now. But they have the Rh negative blood, but their DNA is different than our DNA. Their language is different, their writing is completely different, and those are from what, like I said, from what I was being shown through like this little movie that was playing in my head. These were the people that were the remnants of those people from Mars.
And,
Very interesting.
and they're living amongst us?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's coming forward more now that there were people that we are a product of outside entities.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure where I heard this, but I know that some people were, they call it seeded from other planets.
Yeah.
And
Other star
Star
systems.
seed.
Right.
and
Andromeda, Palladian.
yeah.
Right.
Well, you look at the diversity of the types of people we have on this planet, between the Africans, the Asians, the Russians, the Europeans, you know,
The Philippines and
Filipinos, right.
all of the
You look
Pacific
at
Islanders.
you look at all the different the faces and everything, and you know that there were different, that there had to have been different entities that came here, and you know, they seeded this planet.
I have a question. For anyone interested in any of this stuff, is there somewhere online that they can look
There are a lot of places.
on the internet?
One of the places I would like to send people right now is seek out Linda Moulton Howe.
Yes.
How? H-O-W-E?
H-O-W-E. She is an award-winning journalist back from the 70s.
Right.
And she is presenting as of tonight, I believe. She's got a documentary that's coming out where she talks with some one is a Navy SEAL and another is from the Army, I believe, about Antarctica and
Right.
what has been found, what was
That's
found
amazing.
down
Yeah, from what-
in Antarctica, and what they learned from what they found there, that we were basically seeded, we were created by these different races as workers.
Right.
Originally.
Right. So digging the tunnels and mining.
So that they wouldn't have to do it.
Getting the gold. I mean, you look at stuff outside
Look
the
at
pyramids.
look at us now.
You know, stuff on the pyramids and things that were actually carved in stone, where they had a minotaur and they had, you know, beings, humans with bull heads, and I mean, these were actually created for the workforce.
And it's funny because the people of this planet want us to believe that those were all,
Active imaginations.
yeah, that was a heck of imagination, but really it wasn't. All these things did exist at one point in time.
Well,
Time-wise.
we're out of time.
Yes, we are again.
Thank you again
You're
for
welcome.
being with us. Maybe later in the year you can talk to us about ETs,
Okay,
the extraterrestrials. And
my brothers.
Well, even the connection, possible, you know, between the angelic realm and ETs, and you know how
Yes.
these things